There are moments in life that divide everything into a before and an after. Moments you never see coming. Moments that force you to confront the truth you've been avoiding, even if that truth rips through your chest like a storm. For Faye, that moment arrived on an ordinary afternoon, when the world around her was loud, but something inside her suddenly went silent. Because when a rumor spreads, one sharp enough to wound the heart, it doesn't need confirmation. It just needs to land. And once it lands, it changes everything. Everyone had heard it. Everyone was whispering. Everyone was watching. But no one expected the way Faye reacted. No panic. No tears. No dramatic confrontation. Just a quiet stillness. The kind that only happens when a heart is breaking quietly. She didn't scream. She didn't demand answers. She didn't chase the truth. Instead, she stood there, breathing deeply, as if she already knew the answer long before the rumor ever reached her ears. Because sometimes, the heart feels the shift long before the mind accepts it. And her heart had been preparing for this for weeks. For that inevitable moment when everything she feared would stand in front of her in the form of whispered voices, side glances, and a truth she didn't want to face. The rumor was simple, but devastating. Koko, the one she trusted, the one she loved in quiet ways, the one she believed would always protect her, was seen with someone else. Someone who wasn't her. Someone who laughed too loudly and touched too freely. Someone who didn't hesitate the way Faye always did. It hit her like a cold wave. Not because she believed it right away, but because deep down she feared it might be true. And fear is sometimes louder than reality. The world expected her to collapse, to fall apart, to run. But she didn't. Instead, she absorbed it, like a storm cloud taking in thunder. Everyone watched her. Everyone waited for the explosion. Everyone wondered how she would confront him. But Faye didn't break. Not outwardly. Not the way they expected. Because heartbreak doesn't always look like destruction. Sometimes heartbreak looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like strength. Sometimes it looks like a woman deciding she will not allow the world to see her at her most fragile. Her reaction was quieter than a whisper, but louder than a scream. She simply said one sentence. Soft, steady, and almost too calm. Let him come to me. And that was when everyone knew. She wasn't angry. She wasn't panicking. She wasn't running. She was waiting. Not for the rumor. Not for the crowd. Not for the whispers. She was waiting for Koko. Because when you love someone, you don't demand explanations in the heat of chaos. You wait until their truth can be heard without noise. And that was the most painful part. She didn't run because she didn't believe him. She stayed because she believed him too much. Because she loved him too deeply. Because she knew that if she reacted recklessly, she might destroy something worth saving. So she held her silence. A silence heavy enough to break the heart of anyone who witnessed it. Koko, unaware of the storm brewing around him, walked into the room hours later, smiling lightly, carrying the gentle warmth he always carried around her. He didn't know what she heard. He didn't know that everyone was waiting. He didn't know that the rumor had already changed her. But the moment he stepped through the door, he felt something. A shift. An invisible wall. A quietness that didn't belong to her. Faye didn't look at him right away. She kept her eyes on the floor, hands folded gently, breathing too evenly to be natural. And Koko felt his heart tighten. Because he knew, when the woman you love goes silent, something is wrong. What's wrong? He didn't say it, but the question filled his eyes. Faye finally looked up. Her expression wasn't angry, wasn't hurt, wasn't accusing. It was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that scares you because it feels like goodbye. And before he could ask anything, before he could explain, before he could speak, her whisper cut through the air like a blade made of mercy. I heard what everyone else heard. That was all she said. Nothing more. Nothing less. But those words carried the weight of oceans. They carried the weight of trust. The weight of disappointment. The weight of fear. Koko felt the room tilt. The ground shift. His breath catch in his throat. He tried to speak. But how do you begin to explain something when you don't even know what version of the story she heard? He took a step forward. She didn't step back. And somehow, that hurt more than anything. Because she wasn't avoiding him. She wasn't protecting herself. She was bracing herself for either the truth that would heal her, or the truth that would finally shatter her. Koko, she whispered again. And even the way she said his name sounded like a prayer. And a plea at the same time. Just tell me the truth. Not for them. Not for the rumor. Not for the story people want. Tell me the truth. For us. Her voice didn't tremble. Her hands didn't shake. She didn't cry. And that was the painful beauty of it. She was holding herself together so he wouldn't feel guilty. For breaking her. Koko felt something snap inside him. Not anger. Not defensiveness. Not panic. But fear. The kind of fear you feel when you realize the person you love the most might be slipping away. Not because of something big you did, but because of something small you failed to protect. He explained everything. Slowly. Gently. Honestly. Every detail. Every moment. Every misunderstanding. Every truth the rumor twisted. And for the first time since the whisper began spreading, Faye blinked softly, as if a weight had lifted, but left a bruise behind. The truth didn't erase the fear she felt, but it softened it. It soothed it. It gave her something to hold on to, instead of something to run from. And when he finally finished, when all the explanations were laid out between them, like fragile glass, she said only this. I didn't want to believe it, but I was scared. It was the rawest confession she had ever made. Not because she feared losing him, but because she feared losing the version of herself. That felt safe with him. Her vulnerability was quiet, precise, heart-piercing. Koko stepped closer. Not with desperation, not with fear, but with the steady determination of someone who realized how close he came to losing something irreplaceable. He promised her truth. He promised her clarity. He promised her protection from rumors, from misunderstandings, from the careless words of others. But Faye didn't want promises. She wanted presence, consistency, reassurance. And Koko knew that. He knew he couldn't mend everything in one moment. He knew trust wasn't rebuilt with a sentence. He knew love wasn't secured with pretty words. So he didn't try to fix it instantly. He simply reached for her hand. Slowly, gently, carefully, as if asking for permission, instead of assuming he still had the right. And Faye didn't pull away. She let him hold her. Not because everything was healed, but because she chose to believe in the love between them, more than the words outside of them. Her reaction, quiet and gentle, spoke louder than any dramatic outburst ever could. She stayed. She listened. She chose love, even when fear tried to tear it away. And that was what everyone saw. That was what everyone whispered about later. That was what made the rumor fade, and the truth rise. Her reaction wasn't weakness. It wasn't denial. It wasn't desperation. It was courage. It was loyalty. It was love. The kind that